You spend 20 minutes tailoring your CV. You write a thoughtful cover letter. You answer every application question. You click submit, and then nothing. No interview, no rejection, no update, just silence. After a while, it starts to feel like your application disappeared into a black hole. But what if it didn't? What if your application actually followed a journey that almost nobody talks about? Today, we're opening case file number 005. Because once you understand what really happens after you click apply, that silence starts to make a lot more sense. The case. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel wasn't lazy. He applied consistently. He tailored his CV. He researched companies. He even kept a spreadsheet tracking every application. Yet after dozens of applications, the pattern was always the same. Application submitted. Silence. Eventually, Daniel reached a painful conclusion. Nobody is even reading my CV. It's a thought many job seekers have. But was it true? There was only one way to find out. We open the case. Evidence A: the journey your application takes. Most people imagine something like this. You submit your application, a recruiter opens it. They decide yes or no. Simple. Reality is usually much messier. Your application often joins hundreds, sometimes thousands of others. It may be sorted, filtered, grouped, compared, prioritized, reviewed, or held for later. Sometimes it's seen within hours. Sometimes it isn't reviewed for days. Sometimes a role receives far more qualified applicants than expected. Suddenly, your application isn't competing against the job description, it's competing against everyone else who clicked apply. The silence doesn't always mean your application was bad. Sometimes it means the queue was simply longer than you imagined. Evidence B: silence isn't always a decision. One of the biggest misconceptions in job searching is this: no response means rejection. Not necessarily. Recruitment isn't always a straight line. Hiring managers go on leave. Budgets change. Internal candidates appear. Projects pause. Positions get frozen. Job requirements change halfway through the process. Sometimes recruiters simply don't have the capacity to respond to every applicant. Is that frustrating? Absolutely. But understanding that possibility changes the story you tell yourself. Silence isn't information. It's uncertainty. And uncertainty is very different from failure. Evidence question. Imagine you never received a reply after applying for a role. What's the first explanation your mind jumps to? A: my CV wasn't good enough. B: they never saw my application. C: I don't know. Be honest. Your answer reveals more than you might think. Evidence C: the strategy trap. Daniel eventually showed me his spreadsheet. One detail stood out immediately. He was measuring success by applications sent, not conversations started. He celebrated hitting 50 applications, then 100, then 200. But he wasn't measuring response rate. He wasn't identifying patterns. He wasn't adjusting his approach. He was tracking effort, not effectiveness. And that's an easy trap to fall into, because sending applications feels productive. Learning from them is what actually moves you forward. The breakthrough. We didn't tell Daniel to apply to more jobs. We asked different questions. Which applications received replies? Which industries responded more often? Which versions of his CV performed better? Which job titles generated interviews? Instead of treating every application as another lottery ticket, he started treating each one as another piece of evidence. The job search became an investigation, not a guessing game. And that's when the silence started turning into conversations. Diagnosis. Job applications don't disappear into a black hole. They disappear into a process you can't fully see. That's an important difference. The mistake isn't believing the process is competitive. It is. The mistake is assuming silence automatically explains why. Without evidence, your mind fills the gaps, usually with self-doubt. The better approach is to collect evidence before drawing conclusions. That's exactly what investigators do. And it's exactly what effective job seekers learn to do. Official case finding. Silence is not a diagnosis. Without evidence, rejection is only one of many possible explanations. The strongest job seekers improve by investigating patterns, not by assuming the worst. Viewer investigation. I want to ask you something. What's the longest you've ever waited to hear back after submitting a job application? A week? A month? Longer? Share your experience below. Not because we're comparing frustrations, but because every story helps us understand the hiring process a little better. Next investigation. In our next career autopsy, we'll investigate something almost everyone believes. That experience automatically leads to interviews. But the evidence suggests something very different. We'll open the case on why your experience isn't getting interviews. You won't want to miss it. Continue today's investigation with evidence brief number 001. The 15-minute CV fix. Learn how to improve the one part of the hiring process you can control, how clearly you present your value. The link is in the description below. And if you found today's investigation helpful, consider subscribing. Every week, we open another case file. Because here at Career Hack, we reverse engineer why careers succeed or fail.